always aware of everyone else's activities in addition to his own cooking. He knew exactly how things should be. He watched everything and made sure everyone did everything correctly. He was a teacher. We used to make chapatis by hand, but then one day he asked me to get him a rolling pin. I bought my rolling pin and he appropriated it. He put some men on rolling chapatis and supervised them very carefully. I made a chutney for him at home. He always accepted our gifts graciously, although I don't think he ever ate them. Perhaps he was worried. We might put in something that wasn't allowed in his diet. He used to take things from me and put them in the cupboard. I don't know what he finally did with them, but I'm sure he did not throw them away. I never saw him eat anything that I had prepared, although he accepted everything. Prabhupada held his evening meetings on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, just as he had uptown. The loft was out of the way for most of his acquaintances, and it was on the Bowery. A cluster of sleeping derelicts regularly blocked the street level entrance, and visitors would find as many as half a dozen bumps to step over before climbing the 4 flights of stairs. But it was nothing new. You could go and sit with a group of hip people and watch Swami lead Kirtana. The room was dimly lit, and Prabhupada would burn incense. Many casual visitors came and went. One of them, Gunter, had vivid impressions. Gunter, you walked right off the Bowery into a room filled with the incense. It was quiet. Everyone was talking in hushed tones, not really talking at all. Swamiji was sitting in the front of the room and in meditation. There was a tremendous feeling of peace which I have never had before. I had happened to have studied for 2 years to become a minister and was into meditation, study, and prayer. But this was my first time to do anything Eastern or Hindu. There were lots of pillows around and mats on the floor for people to sit on. I don't think there were any pictures or statues. It was just Swamiji, incense and mats, and obviously the respect of the people in the room for him. Before we went up, Carl was laughing and saying how Swami wanted everyone to use the hand symbols just correctly. I had never played the symbols before, but when it began, I just tried to follow Swamiji, who was doing it in a certain way. Things were building up. The sound was building up, but then someone was doing it wrong. And Swamiji just very, very calmly shook a finger at someone and they looked, and then everything stopped. He instructed this person from a distance, and this fellow got the right idea, and they started up again. After a few minutes, sound of the cymbals and the incense. We weren't in the Bowery any longer. We started chanting Hare Krishna. That was my first experience in chanting. I had never chanted before. There is something in Protestant religion that comes even close to that. Maybe Catholics with their Hail Marys, but it's not quite the same thing. It was relaxing and very interesting to be able to chant, and I found Swamiji very fascinating. The loft was more open than Prabhupada's previous place uptown, so there was less privacy. And here, some of the visitors were skeptical and even challenging, but everyone found him confident and joyful. He seemed to have far-reaching plans, and he had dedication. He knew what he wanted to do and was single-handedly carrying it out. It is not one man's job, he had said, but he went on doing all he could, depending on Krishna for the results. David was beginning to help, and more people were coming by to visit him. Almost all of Prabhupada's Bowery friends were musicians or friends of musicians. They were into music, drugs, women, and spiritual meditation. Because Prabhupada's presentation of the Hare Krishna mantra was both musical and meditative, they were automatically interested. Prabhupada stressed that all the Vedic mantras or hymns were sung, in fact, The words Bhagavad Gita meant the song of God. But the words of the Vedic hymns were incarnations of God in the form of transcendental sound. The musical accompaniment of hand cymbals, drum, and harmonium was just that, an accompaniment, and had no spiritual purpose independent of the chanting of the name of God. Prabhupada allowed any instrument to be used as long as it did not detract from the chanting. Carol. It was a very interracial, music oriented scene. There were a few professional musicians and a lot of people who enjoyed playing or just listening. Some people were painting in some of the lofts, and that's basically what was going on. We had memorable kirtans. One time there was a beautiful ceremony. Some of us went over early to prepare for it. There must have been 100 people who came that day. For that Bauri crowd, sound was spirit, and spirit was sound, in a merging of music and meditation. But for Prabhupada, music without the name of God was in meditation. It was sense gratification, or at most a kind of stylized impersonal meditation. But he was glad to see the musicians coming to play along in his kirtans, to hear him and to chant responsively. Some, having stayed up all night playing somewhere on their instruments, would come by in the morning and sing with the Swami. He did not dissuade them from their focus on sound, rather, he gave them sound. In the Vedas, sound is said to be the first element of material creation. The source of sound is God, and God is eternally a person. Prabhupada's emphasis was on getting people to stand God's personal transcendental name, whether they took it as jazz, music, rock, or Indian meditation made no difference as long as they began to chant Hare Krishna. Carol. Wherever he had the chanting, the people were fairly in awe of the Swami. Or the Bowery, a kind of transcendence came out of the ringing of the cymbals. He used the harmonium, and many people played hand cymbals. Sometimes he played the drum. In the very beginning, he stressed the importance of sound and the realization of Godhead through sound. That was, I suppose, the attraction that these musicians found in him. The emphasis on sound as a means of attaining transcendence and the Godhead. But he wanted a serious thing. He was interested in discipleship. Discipleship. One serious newcomer was Michael Grant. Mike was 24. His father, who was Jewish, owned a record shop in Portland, Oregon, where Mike grew up. After studying music at Portland's Reed College and at San Francisco State, Mike, who played the piano and many other instruments, moved to New York City along with his girlfriend, hoping to get into music professionally. But he quickly became disenchanted with the commercial music scene. Playing in nightclubs and pandering to commercial demands seemed particularly unappealing. In New York, he joined the Musicians Union and worked as a musical arranger and as an agent for several local groups. Hare Krishna. So, in summary, here we can see that Prabhupada's determination and enthusiasm to spread God consciousness in America. He is fulfilling the mission of his Guru Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada attracted a diverse group of people, like musicians and musical teachers, and emphasized the realization of God through sound vibration. His kirtans and Srimad Bhagavatam class, that is the sound vibration. Visitors like Carol, Gunter, and Michael Grant found a profound sense of peace and discipline in his presence. Prabhupada acted as a meticulous teacher, supervising everything from rolling of chapatis to using hand cymbals or kartals during kirtan. He taught that while musical instruments like the harmonium and drums were helpful tools, but the true spiritual essence lay in the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. By presenting God as a person accessible through sound, he bridged the gap between the the Bauri's music oriented culture and ancient Vedic culture. For newcomers, Prabhupada was a deeply realized scholarly figure who prioritized his spiritual mission over personal comfort or opulence. Hare Krishna.